Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Liberty Report. With us today, we have Daniel McAdams, our co-host. Daniel, good to see you this morning.
Good morning, Dr. Paul. How are you this morning?
Are you ready to do our job today?
I hope so.
And we were looking for a hero, but we ended up with the opposite. We're going to talk about the opposite of any hero.
The opposite of a hero was right.
And this comes from somebody we've talked about before because he doesn't have a very good record. So we'll be talking about Senator Graham.
Yes.
So. And he made some statements today. And, you know, we've talked a whole lot, at least I think about it. Why do they start these wars? And I say, I know there must be the deep state and making money, and there must be power mongers, and some people don't know. It's just sort of patriotic to go along with whatever the government tells them to do. But we might get a very strong confession here. The headline for this article says, Gleeful Graham, Ukraine war all about money.
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
Yeah, told the truth.
And this comes from Responsible Statecraft, and they're reliable to relate to us many good tidbits. But this is disgusting. I found it outrageous, and I think, I mentioned a few things like immoral, wicked, unpatriotic, unconstitutional, and just bad manners.
Yeah.
So that's what we're faced with. But a lot of this has gone on. So I guess we have to give them credit for something, for telling the truth.
Yeah.
It's all about money. But that's in quotes.
Yeah.
So I'd like to verify that that's in a quote.
Well, actually, let's listen to Senator Graham himself, who spilled the beans on television just a couple of days ago. We can cue that clip and listen to what he has to say. You might want to put on your earpiece and listen to that first video clip of Senator Graham. He's not shy about it. Let's listen in.
This war is about money. People don't talk much about it, but you know the richest country in all of Europe for rare earth minerals is Ukraine. $2 to $7 trillion worth of minerals that are rare earth minerals, very relevant to the 21st century. Ukraine's ready to do a deal with us, not the Russians. So it's in our interest to make sure that Russia doesn't take over the place. It's the breadbasket of really the developing world. 50% of all the food going to Africa comes out of Ukraine. We can make money and have an economic relationship with Ukraine that'd be very beneficial to us with peace. So Donald Trump's going to do a deal to get our money back, to enrich ourselves with rare earth minerals, a good deal for Ukraine and us. And he's going to bring peace. And Biden's been a disaster when it comes to containing bad guys. This war is
So Biden hasn't done anything for Ukraine, only $200 billion.
The first thing I was thinking about when he was describing this wonderful country, Ukraine, with their natural resources, is wouldn't that be a great country to have a good business relation, have trade between two countries like that? Maybe we could get the minerals and the precious minerals, with a fair trade.
Nah, let's steal it.
No, but I don't think they've measured the cost. The cost is unbelievable.
Yeah.
So far, you just mentioned tens of billions of dollars, and it's probably not over yet, even though people think it is. But it looks like it could linger until the last, Ukrainian is killed, I guess, or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, the estimates, and I think these are very, very low ball, that 1 million people have either died or been injured, the combination. I think that's a low ball in the Ukraine war. And here, with the most callous attitude, Lindsey Graham doesn't care. He's even been on record saying that let them fight to the last Ukrainian. We don't care. He also said they're killing Russians. That's a good thing. But the other thing that struck me, so Graham is a neocon. There's no question about it. And he says, don't worry, this war, at the end, it won't cost us anything. And in fact, go to the third clip, I think, the third, not video, but the third, because I think we need to look at the quote, if we can, that third one. Yeah, okay, here it is. So Graham also emphasized the incoming Trump administration is uniquely positioned to cash out on such resources. Quote, and we just heard this, Donald Trump is going to do a deal to get our money back. to enrich ourselves with rare earth minerals. And you're thinking, where did we hear this before? This war is going to be basically free. It's going to pay for itself. Well, I was just looking a second ago before we started the show, because I remember some quotes. Now here's Ari Fleischer, White House press secretary, February of 2003, just before the Iraq War. Iraq has tremendous resources that belong to the Iraqi people, and there are a variety of means Iraq has to shoulder much of the burden for their own reconstruction. Donald Rumsfeld right before the war. When it comes to reconstruction, before we turn to the American taxpayer, we'll turn first to the resources of the Iraqi government and the international community. Paul Wolfowitz in this Defense Department before it starts, and there are hundreds of these, I'm just going to do these three. There's a lot of money to pay for this. Doesn't have to be U.S. taxpayer money. It starts with the assets of the Iraqi people. We're talking about a country that can really finance its own reconstruction, and relatively soon. This is what the neocons say about every war. And who shouldered the burden? Well, they lost 1 million people in Iraq, but we shoulder the burden of the invasion and the reconstruction, and it'll be the same here. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, I interrupted you. This is typical of when the empire, reaches out too far, and to believe that they can repay it and then put it in terms of trade. Well, they owe it to us. We saved them from all this, and you just described how horrible it is, and yet they're going to take the money. They're going to try, but that usually doesn't happen. Nobody could repay the lives lost and all the tragedy. But that to me is, a real tragic mess that this goes on, and they couch it in terms of, that's their idea of trade.
Yeah.
We go in and kill you, and we get control of their enemies, and we'll create an enemy so that we know who to fight, and then you all have to pay us back. A perpetual corruption machine is what it is.
The left historically has criticized American interventionist foreign policy by calling it imperialist. And that's always sort of been written off by non-left critics of the foreign policy. But in a sense, they're absolutely right, I think. This is literally textbook imperialism. We will either invade or get someone to invade your country, and we will grab your resources and take them for our own. This is classic 19th century imperialism, and it's, and the other thing that's tragic is that the left, if you remember, with the Iraq War, their chant was no war for oil. And so we thought that's partly true, but there are a lot of other reasons. But sadly now the left, not for the most part, for a large degree, has bought into this Ukraine war. And they don't talk about no war for resources, no war for this. They've sort of jumped off of that. So we've lost a lot of allies, I think, in that argument.
But Graham was reassuring. He says Donald Trump is going to do a good deal.
Good deal.
He'll make a deal to get our money back, to enrich ourselves with rare earth minerals. So you think it would dawn on them on what they're doing. We complain all the time about the far left, about how do they do these dumb things? Like how they were running this past campaign, and how the Biden-Harris campaign was being run. Don't they know that people don't like what they're saying?
Yeah.
Well, won't the people? They're not objecting yet. Won't the people object to this? I guess this is part of what they think they do, and it's something they've done for a long time. It requires lying, and the lies have to be out there.
And the big lie is that the American people are somehow going to get the money back that was stolen from them to start this war in the first place, because we all know very well that the deals made for the minerals and for the resources in Ukraine have already been made by BlackRock and all the people that are extremely well connected. They're the ones that will go in and reap all the benefits, and will be shouldered with the costs. And there's a name for that, isn't it, where you socialize the costs and privatize the profits.
Yeah.
And that's exactly
That's
what's
supposed
happening.
to be the best deal in the world, and make use of the government, violence in order to individuals or corporations to gain in the wealth.
Yeah. Well, I think Larry Fink will be happy.
In a softer way, they do that constantly.
Yeah.
We don't hear about it. The military-industrial complex and all the money that goes. Let's keep our fingers crossed. But I hope the committee, who is supposed to cut out waste and fraud, they have to deal with how much money is being spent on weapons, but we have, so far we haven't known. The one thing is we could encourage them to do an audit, make sure we have an audit, and just be firm about that, but no audit.
Yeah.
And the same way, who pays the bills? Oh, that's the Fed. They have secret trick. They have a trick.
Yeah.
They could take paper and turn it around into magic and make it money.
I wonder if they could help us. We need money. But in a sane world, someone like Lindsey Graham who says something like this would be drummed out of polite society. That kind of language reserved for thugs.
Yeah.
It's awful.
It's amazing.
So anyway, let's move on to a much better story. And this is a story about one person, really. I think the good news about this is that one person can make a difference. And that's what I know what you've always said. Just do what you want to do. Do what you're good at, and you'll see some results. This person deserves a lot of praise. His name is Robbie Starbuck, and he is an activist in the anti-woke corporate world. He's put on this next clip. So he went after Harley Davidson, all of these big corporations that went totally woke. Everyone's irritated. Well, he decided to do something about it, and he had his biggest victory yet. Walmart nukes DEI as anti-woke crusader Robbie Starbuck sends shockwaves across corporate America. So what he did, actually, let's listen in his own words what he did. And this is a little longer than we usually put up, but this is 1 minute and 9 seconds of Robbie Starbuck telling us exactly how he got Walmart to get rid of all of their woke DEI stuff. Go ahead.
All right, y'all. I don't even know how to start this video because honestly, this is different than everything else we've done because this is the single largest employer in the United States. We are talking about a company that is worth almost $1 trillion on its own. As many of you know, I have been investigating a massive company now for a while, and I have kept my lips sealed on who it was. Now I can reveal it was Walmart, but something incredible happened in the course of my investigation. Walmart became aware of our investigation and reached out to me. This was critical and honestly turned out pretty fantastic for everybody involved, in my opinion. We were able to have frank conversations with Walmart. And as I've said for a long time, I don't ask companies to take on my political views. I am simply advocating for corporate neutrality. I believe that that is the future because I understand there are people in this country who do not agree with my politics. So it would not be fair of me to force my politics on them the same way that I am not okay with left-wing policies being forced on me and people like me via things like DEI. After various conversations, I am very proud to report to you guys that Walmart has decided on making some changes. I'm going to lay out what those changes are for you and explain how massive this is for our movement. We are unstoppable at this point with a 100% flip rate where we...
So he's had so many successes that when Walmart learned that he was investigating all of their woke things, they called him up and said, "Hey, we want out. What can we do? We don't want to. we don't want to be attacked." That's great. I mean, that's the consumer fighting back.
It's not an army of people. It's an army of one.
Yeah.
Plus a few helpers.
Yeah. Well, here's the old Walmart. Just to remind everyone, if you put up that photo, this is. Hopefully, this Walmart is completely gone. If you put up that photograph, that next clip. Here we go, the rainbow flags and all of this. You walk into Walmart and this is what you're assaulted with. Now, most of America doesn't like this and doesn't want it. And so Robbie Starbuck went and he talked to them and got it changed. Now, I'm going to put up that next clip. I'm going to read a few of the things that they just went to him and said, this is what we're going to change. And one of them is they'll no longer participate in HRC's Woke Corporate Equality Index. This is a good one here. They will monitor the Walmart workplace and identify and remove inappropriate sexual and or transgender products marketed to children. They will review all their funding of Pride and other events to avoid funding inappropriate sexualized content targeting kids. They will not extend the Racial Equality Center or Equity Center, which was established in 2020. They will evaluate supplier diversity programs and ensure that they do not provide preferential treatment and benefits to suppliers based on diversity. They don't have any quotas going forward. Financing eligibility will no longer be predicated on providing certain demographic data. They'll no longer use the term Latinx in official communications. They'll discontinue racial equity training through the Racial Equity Institute, and they will discontinue the use of DEI as a term while ensuring respectful and supportive environment. They said our focus is on belonging for all associates and customers.
They even have a new slogan.
Yes.
Swapping out DEI for MEI, merit excellence and intelligence will move America forward. Isn't that a great closing?
That really is. That really is. And so I think it's very positive. And what I like about the clip from Robbie, Robbie's a great guy. I've been in touch with Robbie before, and we need to get him on the show. He'd be happy to come on, actually. And he was a big fan of yours in the campaigns. Super nice guy. But I think what he did, and if you put that second clip on, one of the things that I like about it is he said, I'm not trying to impose my politics on Walmart. I don't want them to reflect my politics. I just want them to be neutral in the marketplace, like all corporations. And I think that's good. Now put on this next clip. We've now changed policy. Okay, now here's Robbie Starbuck saying, we've now changed policy at companies worth over $2 trillion. And I highlighted this part. With many millions of employees who have a better workplace environment as a result. And that is something that you don't often think about, because I'm sure there are probably hundreds, if not thousands, of employees that are drudging away at these companies. They hate everything that's happening. They hate all the stuff that's coming down from corporate. They hate putting on rainbow flags and all this stuff, but they're afraid to say anything because they don't want to lose their job. In fact, I think he's helped workers more than unions have by doing this.
Then you need one person to stand up and say, oh, I've been thinking that too. I better help, you know, all of a sudden. But that was going on when people were waking up with COVID. One person would stand up and say, this is not the right thing to do.
So hats off to Robbie, and people should definitely support his efforts because he speaks for the majority. So that's a good news story. We don't get too many good news stories this lately, at least. The last one we want to talk a little bit about comes to us from antiwar.com and Dave DeCamp. If you put up that next clip, report, U.S. to deploy missiles to southern Japanese islands if China attacks Taiwan. So here we go again, more military resources in the Eastern Pacific, Western Pacific.
But they're planners, you know. The rumors out there, the war is going to end in Ukraine, and everyone's going to be peaceful and loving there. So and people are getting tired of sending billions and billions of dollars over there and just reading the stories about how many people are dying. So let's go someplace else. We're going to go down there, and we won't start a war. We'll just prepare in case it's necessary. You know, if those Chinese start messing around, if they get annoyed with the tariffs we put on them or something, we have to be prepared for that. So if it happens, our government wants to be ahead, but we don't know about which government we have now to make those decisions. So maybe Trump won't do that, because it says that the current administration wants to send these missiles to the islands off Japan.
Unfortunately, a lot of the conservatives who are opposed to the Ukraine war are opposed because they want to have a war with China. Let's do the war with China. But thankfully, Dave included this map in his article, if you can put that up. Now, these are islands that are rather close to Taiwan, which you can see is in the lower left hand. And there's Okinawa, and there's a few of the islands. So basically, the U.S. is going to put a bunch of missiles there and aim them toward China. Now, I'm looking around here, Dr. Paul, and I'm thinking, make America American first, make America great. I don't see America anywhere in this map. In fact, I think you'd have to go a very, very far away to find any America at all over there.
Maybe we should have a rule of how far you're allowed to leave shore to go look for a war. And so far, not many people have threatened us with an invasion, except we've had an invasion, but we brought it on ourselves. We just said, oh, we don't have a country anymore. Come in and do it, and we'll pay your way. But that looks like it may well be coming to an end. Let's hope.
Well, if we are talking about government efficiency and cutting government, and we're happy to see that Elon a few days ago talked about the Pentagon being a target for their looking at ways, well, this is going to be massively expensive if they start putting missiles into Taiwan. Someone should come up with a number of how much it costs.
Yeah, because it is tough business. I think that the people that are working on making these big cuts, I think they're very sincere and they are going to achieve something, but it's a bigger task than anybody realizes because it's ingrained in the system. When you think how are you going to really significant cut back on the military-industrial complex, it'll be here, it'll pop up over here.
Whack-a-mole. Yeah.
So that is a shame to me to think that this is going to continue, and to get the people themselves, because to start cutting. I did see something the other day that I said was the last place to cut. Somebody had proposed cutting some aid to children.
Yeah.
And I said that should be
way down.
Wait on that.
Way down.
So that might be a weak spot for me, but it should be a lot easier to cut from these wars than it is to feeding kids that have been seduced into this system of parents and kids being totally dependent on handouts. Just look at what the immigrants have been treated with, and they didn't know that slogan about if you subsidize something, you get more of it. And we certainly have more problems at the border, but we're keeping our fingers crossed. We hope that is going to improve.
Yes. Well, one of the things that struck out in this article for me, if you put up that next clip from Dave DeCamp, it says the report said the 4 new bases the U.S. is establishing in the Philippines as part of a military deal signed last year. I said, what, 4 new bases in the Philippines? And I went to try to look at how much it's going to cost. I didn't get an exact number, but I did see that in exchange for that, we're going to give the Philippines a lot of money. Go to that next one. This is from the New York Times, I think in July, so very recently. U.S. pledges $500 million in new military aid to the Philippines as China asserts sea claims. So $500 million we're just going to hand over here, have some weapons. That's a gift to the military-industrial complex. And now, on top of that, go to the next one. The U.S. to spend $100 million on upgrades to Philippine military facilities. I would say probably that $600 million, close to $1 billion, is probably a drop in the bucket to how much it's really going to cost. Do we need to defend Japan, which is a rich country, doesn't need our help? Do we need to defend them against China, when in fact all we're doing is making China angry and making a war inevitable?
It's back to that motivation of these individuals like Graham and others. If one war stops, we have to be prepared.
Yeah,
that's what we're doing. We're getting ready for the next one.
Yeah, get a new one. Yeah, I mean, really, America first would be pulling it all out. If you want to defend yourself against China, have at it, Japan. Go for it. You can spend the money. So I'm gonna close out, if you think we're ready, Dr. Paul. I'm gonna close out with another bit of good news. Now, you had a great idea yesterday. We put it up on your Twitter X feed, and a couple people looked at it. Put up this next clip. Pretty neat, actually, for a number of reasons. But you mentioned to my friends at the Department of Government Efficiency, don't forget about the big one, the rapid, out-of-control increase in interest payments on the national debt. It's on autopilot. Political resistance will be extreme and overwhelming. Beware. And I didn't put it here, but it was retweeted by Elon Musk, who had some very good comments on it. And if you look at the bottom there, you see that number as of just before the show, 9.1 million views. That's not too bad. That's great. That's great. And it sounds like they enjoyed and appreciated the input from you here.
Yeah. The system is amazing to me, because I can remember doing newsletters and press releases, and if you get 100 or 200 people to read it, wow, we're reaching the public. So
that's good news.
It's been very helpful.
Yeah. So I'm all out, Dr. Paul.
Yes, and I think we have consistently defended the foreign policy of non-interventionism. That's the important thing, that we look at the policy, and instead of wanting to run the world, I think people are still really locked into empire. And I think that's the stuff that we've talked about today, especially a guy like Graham. I think he sort of likes the idea of empire, and he wants to be in charge of it. And he's claiming it's a good way to trade, steal it from him and then blackmail him and do all these kind of things. So that requires some thoughts about the policy itself, and the founders pretty well explained to us that we shouldn't go looking around the world for monsters to destroy and constant wars, and that we should not be involved in entangling alliances. And we have even had presence in recent years that spoke like that and talked about it, but they really weren't serious about it. So that's why I think we exist, is to keep the people alert to what's happening and urge the members of Congress or whoever they can to understand why we don't need an empire, because an empire needs a lot of force and a lot of money, and it all erodes the personal liberty of each and every individual in this country. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today to the Liberty Report. Please come back soon.